So, are you guys ready?
I'm ready. Sure. I'm strapped in. My seatbelt is buckled. I'm ready to have a heckin' good time. Hey everybody, welcome back to TBT. If this is your first time, if this is your first time, then welcome. We're super happy to be talking about this subject. I believe all of us here are Star Wars fans. Is that okay? Can I assume that from all of us?
Yeah, that's
yeah. We're all hardcore Star Wars fans with very interesting opinions from the recent movie, The Last Jedi, is what we're going to be talking about today. So, would you guys like to introduce yourself? Kyle, you can go first.
I'm one with the Force. The Force is one with me. I'm one with the Force. The Force is one with me. Hello, I'm Kyle.
I'm Caleb. Hi. I didn't plan a Star Wars thing. I know what I have to do. So there, we're good.
Kill it if you have to.
I'm your Christmas bonus for this episode. I'm Josh.
Hi, Josh.
I don't have a Star Wars setting right now because I didn't know we were supposed to do this either.
Misa, brother.
Oh yeah,
the best quote.
We're also new to this TBT. This is also a newcomer, so don't expect him ever again. This is Josh.
No, never again.
He's a real sweet guy, has a pleasant smile, and sometimes I'm a little jealous, like a schoolgirl checking out the jock boy talking to the cheerleaders. Doggy.
I don't know how I feel right now.
I feel jealous. Everybody knows how I feel.
Well, like Amos said, or I don't think he did, but Amos is the host of this episode, which is his first hosting, if you can't tell. But for anybody who's what? Oh, okay. But if any of you are new to this series, or if you're a newcomer, if you listen to this on SoundCloud, just know that we can only have 2 episodes up at a time, which sucks. Yeah, I know, right? It sucks.
Yes.
So it's always either the newest episode or the episode before it, because they're an hour long, and SoundCloud hates us. But SoundCloud. but YouTube will have every episode, so if you want to listen to it, it's always on YouTube. So don't worry about that. Anyway, Amos, back to you.
With those pleasantries out of the way, let's go ahead and go off with basically the sidelines here. So me and Kyle have some critiques that we have about the movie, whereas Caleb and Josh seem to have absolutely loved the movie, which is completely fine. I do believe this opens a very interesting conversation. So I think it would be interesting to say what your first impression was, other than that you loved it or hate it. So, okay, how about this? Where would you rank this movie, Josh?
What do you mean, like rank it as in like?
Yeah, like as far as like the Star Wars films go, where would you say this one is amongst your favorites?
I mean, it'd probably lie like in the middle. So like, like 4 or 5, maybe 3. I don't know. It's not my favorite one.
Oh, okay.
But it was good.
I feel like I really like this movie. I put it way higher than that. But anyways, but Caleb, how about you?
Actually, it's funny because it's about the same for me. Like, because I love the movie. I really do. I love it a lot. But like, I think I would put it. Yeah, I think about the same. Like the my third or fourth favorite.
With episode 1 being number 1, right?
No, it's actually Attack of the Clones.
Yeah,
the Star Wars Christmas special.
The Star Wars Christmas special. Since this is the Christmas episode. But no, I like. Brilliant. I love like episode 5 is my favorite. Like it's really hard for it to be beat, and like I really like Force Awakens and A New Hope, so I would put it somewhere.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and Revenge of the... Oh, yeah, and Revenge of the... Sorry, I was confused. Yeah, and Revenge of the... It's really hard. Like, I'd put it somewhere around... I'd put it around where Force Awakens is, honestly. So...
Okay, alright. That seems reasonable. What about you, Cal?
It is second to last on the list.
That's garbage.
The only thing it beats
so
is
this okay, so if you guys don't know this podcast, this one episode is going to destroy the podcast ever. Like this is going to end up being the last episode because it's going to destroy everybody. But
not if I have the reins.
But Kyle has to be here.
Kyle has very strong feelings towards this movie.
Okay, Kyle, why don't you enlighten me as to why you rank it so low?
Just without going into the details of every single reason why I dislike it, it makes absolutely no sense in the Star Wars world. In
Darn
a
those fiction movies. Not making sense.
Shut up. This is my time to shine. Shut up.
Okay.
It makes no sense within the Star Wars series, and it completely craps on the original trilogy and all of the character development and everything that was established before. Not only that, but it completely undermines everything JJ did in The Force Awakens.
I thought JJ was a producer on this.
He was.
Yeah.
Huh.
But the producer doesn't necessarily have. He was, but he doesn't.
He just wants this director drill right through his lore. That must be an interesting conversation.
He doesn't have the ability to write a movie or direct it. That was all Johnson. He couldn't say anything about any of it.
There was one thing I heard about whenever The Force Awakens came out, it was the lady who plays Rey, Daisy Ridley is her name, I believe.
Yeah, the lady.
She was talking to JJ, and it was just somebody's account, but she was like, "Hey JJ, what happens to my character later on?" And he was like, "You really want to do this now?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so he took her into a corner and he whispered some stuff into her ear, and she started crying. So with that knowledge, I don't know where this Star Wars series is going, but as far as my opinion on the movie goes, I think I can perfectly say that I was really enjoying it, and then something happened, and then critic mode engaged, and then I'm just really half and half about it. Because honestly, I really did enjoy the direction of this film, and what I mean by that is that I really liked that it was unexpected. Like, this is what I was expecting in the first movie. I wanted to see something new, some new territory being treaded, and it really excited me. Like, the opening bit was it just blew my mind. I really liked the opening bit. Like, I was like, this is what I needed to see. Poe Dameron like shredding up what's it called? Dreadnought. Yeah, oh my gosh, I was on fire over that stuff. It was so cool. But then they blew up his ship and he didn't do it anymore. And then that kind of basically reflects how I feel about the movie.
No more of that. Your ship is gone.
You're only allowed to be cool for a little bit. Then we got to do weird lore things. But anyway, okay, so I do think that is actually a good way to segue. Okay, so in the opening crawl, what would you say is your favorite part of the opening crawl, Caleb?
When you say opening crawl, do you legit mean
the way? I mean, not the opening crawl, but like the way the. Did you see
the way the movie started?
Yeah.
Do you want my initial response or what I thought the second time I was watching it?
Whichever one you're more comfortable with admitting to people.
So I loved it. First of all, like the whole him talking to Hux. Is this Hux? Hello? Are you here? Oh yeah, I don't know if we should have said this at the beginning. We're gonna spoil everything about this movie. I don't know if we should have said that.
Sorry.
Whoops.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were gonna do that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about everything. Because it's kind of hard not to. But my initial thought, I thought the scene was awesome. It was cool. And Kyle brought it to my attention that there's no gravity in space, and that kind of messed with me a little bit.
Oh yeah, that was really weird.
But I understand that there's like so much you can do, and you know my Star Wars mind is like, oh, they had gravity balls in them or something, you know, whatever. But it doesn't bother me that much. Like, it, you know, whatever. It's like Josh said, it's a fiction movie. I mean, I can't expect too much of it to be entirely real. But I love that whole Dreadnought scene. I really do. But I think in my first viewing of it, I was like, who's this character and why do I care about them? The Asian lady or whatever.
You mean
the sister of Rose.
I thought you were talking about Poe, and I was like,
no, the lady who had to drop the bombs. Like I was like, I don't know who this is, and I don't know if I really care about them. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to care about them because they were the sister of this character, which we'll talk about.
Poe.
We'll talk about
dead
Rose
people everywhere.
but yeah, that's basically what I thought.
Okay, what about you, Josh? How'd you like it?
All right, so you talk about the opening crawl. Like when I first watched the movie and the text came scrolling up, and I was reading the plot of what I was about to watch, and I was like, okay, wait a minute. The rebels are on a base, and the First Order has found them, and they're attacking the base. Isn't this how The Empire Strikes Back started?
Exactly.
At first, I was kind of like, all right. But then when I started watching, I was like, okay, well, it's a little different. They're evacuating, and Poe's doing cool stuff. Honestly, I think Poe might have been my favorite character in the entire movie.
Yeah, boy.
And so I really enjoyed the beginning, like Caleb said, all the witty dialogue. And then the fact that he, just was able to jump in a ship and blow stuff up, as he says.
Yeah, pretty much.
I thought that was cool. And yeah, the bombs. Kyle's one of his strong arguments is that there's no gravity with the bombs. Okay.
I wouldn't say it's my strong argument.
Well, it's a pretty weak argument.
Also, I'd like to mention, just real quick, I'd like to mention that later on they were arcing their shots to hit the ship. Why would you arc your shots in space?
That's true.
Did he really? I don't remember.
Yeah, they were arcing their shots to shoot at the ship.
I don't
Like
remember
cannonball
that.
style.
In between episodes 7 and 8, the universe decided that space should have gravity.
After Han died, everybody just got real low and so did space.
The universe became unbalanced when Han died.
Quite literally. Did you have any
Saber
more?
to the chest.
No, that was all I had to say.
Okay, what about you, Kyle?
On my first viewing, I loved it. It was funny, it was fun, it was really cool, and I still like it to this time. I like the movie was great until a certain scene hit, and then after that, it just seemed everything everything after that fell apart. This I still enjoy, and I still enjoy to this day.
Okay.
Upon the second viewing, I obviously noticed some flaws, like why are not the dreadnought shields not up? Why do they not have fighters deployed already if they're going to be attacking starships in space? Why are bombs falling in weightless gravity? But those gripes are not big enough for me to say I hated the scene. I enjoyed it. I liked it. Poe was great. He's probably one of my favorite characters in the movie.
Okay, all right, I can dig that. I liked it just as well. I really enjoyed it. But one thing that I really liked was how they were going from one character to another. Because first we see Poe, he's just wrecking shop, he's just messing things up, and then BB-8's like, hey, Finn's awake and he's naked and there's water everywhere, and then you see Finn jump awake. And he's like walking through the hallways, wetting himself and making himself look like a darn fool. And then he goes over there, and they reunite, essentially. And the first thing he says is, "Where's Rey?" Which segues pretty well into the next part. The initial showing of Luke and the whole lightsaber over the shoulder debacle. How do you guys feel about that? We'll start with Kyle this time.
Absolutely hated it.
Oh, boy. Why?
Because it's just a slap into the face to every Star Wars fan. Like, this is our first look at Luke, because I won't count episode 7 because all he did in that movie was turn around and lift up his hood.
He was there.
He was there. We don't get any kind of character from him. This is the first movie we get a character from him, and we start off in an absolutely backwards way to how Luke really is. This is his father's lightsaber. This is his lightsaber that he used on his adventures in the original trilogy up until he found out, his father was Darth Vader and he got his head cut off. Give me 1 second, guys.
Okay.
Should I just restart then?
No. I paused it right when you said I'll be right back. So I'll pick it up
so I
from
guess
there.
go from where it wasn't Luke's character, I think is what you were saying.
Right. Yeah, it's completely out of his character, and it's such a significant piece of Luke's history as well as the history of Star Wars that for him to just grab it and then chuck it over his shoulder, it meant absolutely nothing at all, was just awful and terrible. And just, it's set up at the end of episode 7, all this stuff happens. And then the last shot we get in episode 7 is a sweeping, beautifully crafted shot of Rey walking up to Luke and then handing him this lightsaber. This is the lightsaber. The last time he saw it, he got his hand cut off and it fell down a mine shaft in Cloud City, basically a gas planet. He should have never seen this thing ever again. I don't know how they found it. If that's my first reaction if that happened is like, where did you get this? How did you find this? Like, no, he's just like.
I mean,
I'll take it.
Indeed.
You can use R2D2 bleeps to bleep that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll comment on that after Caleb and Josh get there.
Brother Josh, go first.
All right. Well, me and Kyle have talked about this before.
Oh, baby.
And okay, my thought on that. It's been 40 years since we've seen Luke. Like, age-wise, right. I guess. You know, something around 40 years. People change over time.
Yeah.
You know, so saying that this character is not what he would have done, we don't really know that, because a lot of stuff has happened within this time that we haven't seen from episode 6 to episode 8. And I mean, he explains the story. He's now clearly a bitter old man.
Yeah. He's
shut himself off to the Force. Rey even says that. So why would he care? You know, he wouldn't. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He's there on that planet to die.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want anything else with the Force. He doesn't want to have anything to do with anything Jedi related. He's done.
He's on the island of Misfit Jedi. He's not here to
the island of Misfit Jedi.
Christmas episode, guys. There we
go. So I mean, I see what Kyle is saying, and I understand why people would be upset, but I don't really see it as a valid reason to be upset in saying that they've destroyed Luke's character. I mean, that's just my opinion.
No, that comes later in the movie.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Okay. What about you, Caleb?
I agree with Josh. Keep this going. I'm going to...
He's going to agree with Josh on everything.
Well, yeah, because we enjoyed the movie, Kyle. When he threw his lightsaber over, me and Josh looked at each other and laughed for like 5 minutes because it was so funny to us that he did that. Because I thought it was so funny, and the second time I watched it, I thought it was just as funny because just how they built it up, and then he just like screw this and threw it over his shoulder, and it doesn't bother me. I mean, like they explain it in the movie that he's, like Josh said, a grumpy old man. He's not the same Luke that we saw at the end of 6.
Yeah, allow me to say something else about that. Okay, Kyle, at first, when I watched the movie the first time, I will admit, I was skeptical about things like that, too. I was kind of like, well, that's not what I thought was going to happen. I laughed. Yeah, I did, but I was kind of like, okay. And, you know,
turned my head and looked at the movie, and I'm like, did that just happen?
Well, that's what I was like the first time.
It's funny. I laughed, too.
Yeah.
I don't think it wasn't funny. I just think that it was funny for comedy's sake because Disney felt like the movies needed to be funnier to attract the kids, and that didn't seem like an appropriate time for there to be comedy. It's a very serious scene. It's supposed to be.
I guess I have a culmination of all opinions, definitely. Like, I do feel like Kyle definitely has a good point with the history behind that lightsaber. Like, what I would have liked. Because there's plenty of comedy in the movie, and this was one of those moments I feel where comedy wasn't necessary because they indeed were building up to this moment. Like, we were on the edge of our seats waiting for Luke to utter something, and then they cut out, and they come back and say, "Oh, look, lightsaber, gone." But I do agree with Kyle that there was a lot of history behind that lightsaber, and I think it would have been more impactful if he did indeed say something like, "Where'd you get this?" And she like. Well, honestly, they can't really answer that question because she got it from Mars Kanata, and we were promised a story behind how she got it, and we haven't got that yet. Or I don't know. But
you could have had something simple like he looks at her, grabs the lightsaber, and is looking at her. He's like, "Where did you find this?" And then like she pauses for a second. She's like, "In a box."
Yeah, like that. You know what?
It would have been funny, but it would have still been like. Luke was, it would have been more believable than Luke's like, nah, whatever.
But but him throwing it over his shoulder does indeed do a character arc that I thought was pretty interesting. Whether I like it or not, I'm still trying to debate because this is indeed a new Luke Skywalker, old, mature. I'm done with this kind of Skywalker. Like I know, what was it? Have you or Josh? I mean, I'm talking to you, Caleb. Have you and Josh watched Logan?
Sadly, no. We haven't seen any of the... nothing against the movie. We just haven't seen any of the X-Men movies, so we just haven't... We didn't really have a reason to watch it.
I was just going to make the comparison to Logan that in that movie, this is like an old, worn out hero who's just done, and their character has changed dramatically. And I do believe it makes the story more interesting. But even Mark Hamill himself said about Luke that he was begging the director. He's like, look, this is not what Jedi do. Jedi never give up. But then again, we go back to the idea, well, why is Luke exiling himself?
See,
Again, I'm very half and half about what they've done with the lightsaber. Yes, I can see why Luke's like, I'm not doing this anymore, but there does need to be some gravity behind it. And then like basically after that, we do get to see what Luke's been up to this whole time. Like he starts fishing, he starts milking sea cows, and
yeah, I think we can all agree that scene did not need to be in the movie.
That was a really dumb scene.
Well, I mean, it was just them showing what he was up to, but this leads into him seeing Chewie for the first time on the door, and which is very strange because like after Chewie knocks down the door, he's like, "Holy cow, it's Chewie! What are you doing here?" And then he stops and says, "Where's Han?" And then that leads us back into essentially what is the meat of the movie, the chase scene. So, how do you guys feel about the really long chase scene?
Wait, who first?
Oh, I guess who first last was it?
It was Kyle.
John. Okay, well I guess you can go this time,
You
Caleb.
go first. You haven't gone yet.
Okay. The chase scene. So, I'm half and half on it. I like it. How much do you want me to talk about it? Because I'm sure you have other points you're wanting to talk about as well.
Oh, yeah, just give like a brief summary. Like we're talking about all the way to the point where they start bailing out of the ship. Okay. Like just that whole point in summary.
I was okay with it. The whole scene where Leia flies out of the cockpit.
Mary Poppins.
That was an interesting choice. I thought that was where she died, and then she came back. So I just quickly want to say about that. I'm skeptical of it when it first happened. I'm okay with it. I can accept it, but it is an odd choice.
Okay.
Because I can accept the fact that she has the Force because she's proved that since episode 6, but the whole fly just I don't know. I guess it just seemed a little disgraceful in a way. It
did seem a little loopy.
Yeah. But besides that, the whole chase scene, I'm actually okay with, except for the stuff that is happening behind the chase scene, if you know what I mean. But I'm sure
I'm trying to save that for more.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But the whole chase scene
is that like.
I like the pink-haired girl. I actually did like her.
It's Purple.
Is that her name? Holdo. I don't even know her name, but I actually
she's in Holdo.
It's Helga.
Exactly.
I actually kind of liked her. Because, she's just doing what she's supposed to do or whatever, and she's not going to take no crap from some
people named Poe Dameron.
Yeah, pretty much. But I won't go too much in detail. I was okay with the chase scene. I mean, obviously the more pressing stuff at the time was the Luke and Rey stuff, but the way that chase scene ended was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. Her turning the ship towards Snoke's battleship and throwing it into light speed and pretty much destroying a third of the ship was so cool. I love that scene.
Oh yeah, that was a pretty cool imagery.
Yeah, it was
like
the
only problem I have with it. The only problem I have with it was probably something you guys didn't experience, but my crowd, when I was watching it, was pretty decent, but there's this one guy who would always cough at the wrong times, and just when everything goes mute, this idiot just like... I was so mad, because that's actually a really good shot of the hyperdrive kamikaze.
But yeah, that's basically my overhaul of the chase scene.
Okay, you got any inputs on that, Josh?
I just want to say that I'm really disappointed that Admiral Akbar didn't fly back into the ship.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, can we all give a moment of silence for Admiral Akbar?
Yeah.
A lot of people are actually really mad about that. There's no just. A lot of people are saying that it should have been Akbar who did the kamikaze.
It's a trap!
Why did we get a last, it's a trap? Because it was a trap.
It's a
That's a trap!
Yeah, that is cool. If it was him that did the kamikaze thing. That would have been a lot cooler, honestly.
Right? Yeah, that would have been really cool. But, I mean, it's not like his character was, like, overly important. It's just that he said it's a trap and he became a meme and everybody likes him because of it.
And he looks like a catfish.
And he looks like, he looks like
I will not be selfish this time.
Dumb. Is that all you had to say about that, Josh?
Yeah, most of what you said was the same. I just wanted to make a joke.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay. Any comments on the chase scene, Kale?
The chase scene is just horrible. It's basically everything you guys like, I'm gonna say is bad. The reason I say that this is bad is because it basically there's like when you watch a movie, and especially like a sci-fi movie, there's like a level of disbelief that you have to suspend. You know, it's like watching episode 4 and everybody escaping the Death Star for the first time, and the stormtroopers are shooting at them. You know, you got to suspend your belief that they're not going to get shot. You know, and that's fine. But the entire chase scene is the plot armor around the characters in that scene, and that entire part of the movie is so apparent in so many ways. There are literally 50 different ways that the Empire or the Resistance could have won that. If, you know, because Caleb mentioned he loved the light speed thing. Okay, well, they had 4 ships. Why didn't they just, aim 3 ships and fire them all directly at them behind? You lose 4 people, but you've saved everybody else that did die in those explosions. Okay?
Wait. What are you talking about? What ships? The support ships?
Yeah, they have the support ships.
They're not battleships.
They're talking about the First Order.
They're not. But they didn't. It's not like the
He's
main
saying that the
cruiser
support ship should have turned around and shot at Snoke's ship.
With the light speed.
Oh.
They should have gone to light speed and tore through them.
But they're support ships.
They have light speed drives too.
Yeah, but it's not a carrier.
Well, to be fair, this has never been done before. So,
yeah, it's never been done before. She just kind of was like, I have an idea.
The cruiser is the only thing that can do any kind of damage at light speed.
I mean, I do see Kyle's point, because like even in like episode 4, Solo was talking about that, you know, light speed is very dangerous, and his ship, it's not exactly a flagship, but I'm pretty sure he's like, yeah, we could probably just tear a planet in half with this thing. But we don't really know. Like, the rules for light speed are so vague, and you can only really get them in the books, which, let's be fair, only the hardcore fans read that stuff. Because as much as I love Star Wars, I've only read a few books, and I've pretty much given up on all of them. I do like the Legend of Luke's books. Those are really interesting, which is one thing that I'm going to lead into. So, okay, first off, I'm going to assume one thing. If it's okay for you guys to assume that we all just did not like the Poe-Rose side story.
You mean Finn?
Am I okay with assuming that?
Finn and Rose.
Oh, Finn and Rose. My mistake. Yeah. But in assumption, we all just unanimously say this was a waste of time and it went nowhere, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I understand that they wanted to do something with Finn, but I don't think that's what they should have done with Finn in the movie.
Well, the reason I say that is because I want to cut. I know how our time limit is, and I want to get on something much more interesting. So we haven't yet talked about Kylo Ren or Snoke. So please, opinions on Kylo Ren, Kyle.
On Kylo Ren himself, he's my favorite character in the new trilogy. He's very interesting. You know, this whole dynamic of light side, dark side is very interesting to me, and I liked him throughout the movie. And you know, one of the things that goes on with him and Rey is the Force connection, the Force bond, and I absolutely love that. I thought that was a great idea, and it really led to some of the better moments in the movie. But if you're talking about the Snoke scene, I loved it. And then at the same time, because my favorite scene in the movie is when Rey and Kylo Ren go back to back and fight off the guards together. It was beautifully shot. It was really awesome to see these guards fight Kylo Ren and Rey together. But at the end, you know, they kill everybody, and it seems like with him having not being able to kill his mother, with him crying after he kills his father, it seems like he's very much like, you know, and even Snoke kind of abusing him. He seems very much like he'd be done with this dark side crap and just be like, you know, whatever. Like, he's basically looks at Rey and he's like, look at me, I am the captain now. It's just like, I mean, on the second viewing, I was more okay with it, so I don't fault it that much at all, really. I kind of like it. I can see leading into episode 9, you know, him being the leader and the Knights of Ren being his guards and all that stuff. And I think that's set up pretty cool, so I don't fault it at all.
Okay. What about you guys? What do you guys think?
I just want to say that's your opinion has changed on that since the last time we talked about it, because the last time we talked about that scene was the first night you watched the movie.
Right. I watched it a second time the next day.
Oh, okay.
And some of my opinions on some things changed. I found that I liked some things more than I did originally, and some things I didn't like. When I watched the movie the first time, I enjoyed it a lot. I had a fun time, but I had questions, and I wasn't sure how I felt about certain things. And upon the second viewing, I more analyzed the movie, and I was okay with some things that I didn't like the first time I watched it, and I hated things more than I did the first time I watched it.
And Kyle, I'm gonna. Sorry, Amos. I just wanted to mention this for a second.
That's all good.
Do you mind quickly telling us how you watched it the first time?
Oh yeah. So basically, the story goes that I was on my way home from work, and I was pulling into my house, and my boss calls me. She's like, "Hey, Kyle, do you want to go see Star Wars?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. When do you want to go see it?" And she's like, "Tonight." And previously, before this, she'd been telling everybody that she was going to go to the Writers Guild screening of the movie, where the director was going to have a Q&A session afterwards. And so she was like, "Tonight," and I'm like, "But I thought you were going to the Writers Guild event." And she's like, "I am. I have another ticket. Do you want to go?" And so I had 45 minutes to get there. It was half an hour away, and I needed a shower. So I ran up there, changed, got ready, drove over there, watched the movie. And at the end of the movie, you know, everybody's clapping and all that stuff. The lights show up, and then Ryan Johnson shows up. And then they're like, "We have one more special guest." And then Mark Hamill himself shows up. And everybody lost their crap. Everybody, I stood up. He got a standing ovation. I loved it. He was... In the Q&A, he was hilarious. He was fun. I feel really bad for him, though, because the first question anybody had asked him was about Carrie Fisher and her passing. And he was just very, you know, they asked him, they're like, how do you handle it when you watch that scene when you're saying goodbye to Leia in the movie? And he's just like, I can't watch it. I look away. And he was very visibly shooken up and practically on the verge of tears. And, you know, it was very sad. And he took him a little bit to get back to it. But, you know, it was an awesome experience to watch it for the first time.
Yeah, I just wanted you to tell. I thought that'd be a cool story to tell. Anyway, back on topic. We were talking about Kylo Ren, right?
And Snoke, yeah.
And Snoke.
Right.
I love the Kylo and Rey stuff that's going on. I was very afraid.
Kylo!
I was very afraid. We were jokingly talking about how Reylo was going to end up being a thing, and thank the Lord it didn't.
Not yet.
I don't know.
They got a lot closer, honestly.
They touched hands, and they are standing next to each other.
They were standing next to each other.
He did have his shirt
She
off.
saw him shirtless.
Oh my gosh, I love that that's become a meme of Kylo without his shirt. It's so funny. But I love Kylo. I loved him in the first movie. I loved him even more in this one. He just I love the fact that he's like, in the first movie, he's like, "I'm gonna be like my father," and then like grandfather, sorry. Sorry.
Ew.
Yeah, I know. And then, like, this movie, Snoke's like, "Stop trying to be like your grandfather," and he's like, "Meh," and he, like, takes his hat and just smashes it, or his helmet. And, like, even, like, the first time he talked, I was like, I cannot understand a word that he is saying at all. And then, like, Snoke said it for me, "Take that ridiculous thing off." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And then he smashes it, and I'm like, cool. I'm gonna be able to understand everything he says this movie. And, I just love the fact that he's just this... He's pretty much just like an angsty teen, just like,
I like Anakin Skywalker,
right? Yeah, he's just like, "I want this, and if I don't get it, I'm gonna kill everyone. I'm gonna kill some sand people." Yeah.
Hey, that's racist.
But the Snoke scene just blew my mind. Like, when it happened, I was like, yes! I was like, it's so cool! It's so awesome! And I'm excited, and then they start fighting the guards, and I'm like, this is awesome! This is great! So I really like that a lot. I have more things to say about Kylo, but it talks about scenes towards the end of the movie, so I'm gonna hang on to those thoughts.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get through the major points as fast as I can. What about you, Jesh?
I thought the Snoke thing was really neat. Like, I know a lot of people are mad because they wanted more of Snoke. They wanted to know where he came from, why he, is Supreme Leader, all this stuff. And I can understand that to an extent. And I've actually heard a theory that is completely false, but I watched a video, they're like, Snoke's not actually dead. He's doing what Luke did at the end of the movie, and he's using the Force to project himself there.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
That's retarded.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said, because people were telling me that, like, some of my friends were like, oh, no, I think he's right. And I was like, no, think about, well, it kind of goes into the last scene, too, though. I'm like, because what Luke is doing in the last scene, Kylo puts the lightsaber through him, and it doesn't do anything. And obviously that's not what Snoke is doing, because it severed his body in half. So,
and then they show it again on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, so that I heard that theory, and I was like, well, that's just not right. I think the whole purpose of that scene was to show you that Kylo is a lot more powerful than we thought he was, and I think that's a pretty interesting thing for them to do.
Yeah, especially since they're like, he's tired of Snoke's crap. Because whenever I was like, is it like when it happened, when that scene came, I was like, is this going to turn into the end of Episode 6? I was like, in a way, like Kylo killing him, it did, but like I thought it was going to be a whole like, Rey's gonna fight Kylo, and then like he's gonna be threatening Rey, and then Kylo kills him, which is kind of the thing. But Kylo just cut to the chase, was like, "No, screw you, I don't want to deal with your crap." And then he's like, "Maybe I can get Rey on my side," and Rey's like, "No, I'm still good," and he's like, "Screw you." And so
Kylo is really powerful, but he's not smart,
right?
Which is what we see.
Yeah, he does a lot of. He has a lot
I wouldn't say he's not smart. I'd say he's very. Well, he acts on his emotions.
Yeah, he's emotional.
Yes, he's very emotional, and he. I don't think he's an idiot. I don't think he's dumb. I just think
I just
takes.
He makes dumb choices sometimes. I guess just based
I do believe
his,
that. I do think actually a culmination of all those opinions are in fact correct, because if I may chime in,
go for it.
I actually really like Kylo in this movie. Like, I dare say, like, it was Luke Skywalker's my favorite, and then Kylo was right underneath. Because I do believe, like, one of the things I didn't like about The Force Awakens was because Kylo had all that anger, and all it was doing was going into, like, monitors and walls. This time, it actually went to something. It actually felt like he was putting forth his actual rage and showing really, like, who he is. Because, as we know, Luke was going to kill him. From the flashback, which is leading into what I was wanting to talk about, was a few inconsistencies from the other movie. Was we saw in the flashback in the first movie that Kylo Ren destroyed all of his students and took some of them, and they became the Knights of Ren, and they weren't mentioned in this movie at all, which I thought was very odd. And then the whole thing with Luke,
Amos, they were mentioned.
That Luke says.
They were.
Luke says that he slaughtered, or he took some of them with him, and he slaughtered all the rest.
Yeah. He says that.
Well, I mean, what I mean is that we don't get any other information besides that. Like, we actually saw them in the first movie, ironically enough, and we still haven't really gotten much detail or explanation on them from now. Because from what we're seeing is that they're more or less just focusing on Rey and Kylo. So Knights of Ren might actually be saved for the next trilogy they're thinking about doing, which, I mean, this is just pure speculation at this point. But I wanted to lead into the next part, which was what happens after all this? They do teleport. Oh yeah, the stuff on the island. So when when Luke is telling Rey to reach out, smacks her on the hand and whatnot. This is going back just a little bit. She goes to the darkness without hesitation. She's looking for answers, and then ultimately she's asking, like, where's her parents? And it turns out, or from what we get, is that Rey's parents are nobodies. How do you guys feel about that? Starting with, you go, Kyle. Caleb.
Well, I was going to say, I'm actually curious, because I know what Josh thinks about it. I'm actually curious what Kyle thinks about it. And
okay, go for it, Kyle.
I loved it.
Oh, really?
I did. It lends itself to a beautiful duality between her and Kylo Ren, Kylo Ren is this guy who comes from, he's got the highest pedigree you can basically come from in the Star Wars universe. His uncle is Luke Skywalker, the last remaining Jedi Master. His dad is the famous smuggler and rebellion leader Han Solo, and his mom is Leia Organa, a Force user, and basically one of the best and wisest leaders in the Star Wars galaxy. He comes from... There's nothing to ever say that this guy can't be the most amazing person in the galaxy. And he just seems to have fallen short on everything. And then there's Rey, who comes from nothing, who seems to have, accomplished everything that she set out to do, and it's a really interesting dynamic, and it lends itself to a beautiful duality between the two characters, and would lend itself well to their overall the two of them in the movie, communicating with each other and all that stuff, because they come from such vast different places.
Interesting. Wow, I thought you might actually tear that to shreds, but that's actually okay.
I have a few smart things that I can say about the movie.
Smart.
I'm sure. I mean, me too, but like...
I don't know how to say it.
Anyways, what about you guys on the other end?
Josh, you go first, actually.
Okay, well, I mean, whenever the movie was over, whenever The Force Awakens was over, I started theorizing, that along with a lot of people, I was like, okay, well, maybe Kylo and Rey are brother and sister, because there was a lot of what I thought were hints at that, that maybe once Rey took over everything, then Kylo took over everything, they took Rey to Jakku to kind of get away from it, so she wouldn't also turn to the dark side, but she was so young, she doesn't really remember what happened, or, I had all these things, and then that was quickly shut down in this movie, and I was okay with that. I was like, okay, that's good that they're not, because that would just be, copying pretty much from the original if they're twins, and that would be kind of, okay, like we've seen this already. So I thought it was fine that she's nobody, and I thought it was pretty neat that she's just as powerful as Kylo almost. Maybe even as powerful as Kylo, and she's from nobody from nowhere, So
you mean Jakku?
Yeah.
Okay, that
pretty much is nowhere.
Yeah.
What about you, Caleb?
Yeah. I think I also agree on that. The whole fact that she come from nowhere. I know originally we were under the impression that maybe Kylo was lying to her, but on the second viewing, I don't think that at all. I think he was legit telling the truth. That she did come from nowhere. And I'm okay with it. I'm totally 100% okay with it. Like Josh and Kyle said, it's really awesome that a character like this doesn't have to come from some legendary family. Although if she came from Obi-Wan, I would have been okay with it. But
there's no way that could have happened.
I know it couldn't. But I'm totally okay with her not coming from anywhere, because it just shows. I mean, it even goes to show towards like the end of the movie, whenever we see the boy use the Force. The Force is everywhere. I'm one with the Force. And
Broom
the Force
Kid!
is on me. Yeah, Broom Kid. It can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to come from the Skywalkers. It can come. Anybody can use the Force. So, yeah, I thought it was cool. I liked it.
Even Samuel Jackson and can use the Force.
Yeah, and Liam Neeson.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so I pretty much have... This is one of those things I'm conflicted on, because one thing that the movie promised was we were going to get to know who Snoke was and why Rey is so powerful. And in this one, this is the reason why I'm so torn on this, is because it took my expectations and tore them away, which I absolutely love. But it just leaves that looming question, like, did I really want that? Is this better? Is this a better payoff than getting a full-on story? Which, one thing that does kind of bother me about like some Star Wars fans is that everything has to be connected. Like Rey has to be Obi-Wan's daughter, or Snoke has to be Grand Moff Tarkin. Like, no, that's
or Mace Windu.
That's not. Or Mace Windu. That was such a ridiculous.
Or Jar Jar.
I do like the idea that these stories can actually lead nowhere. I mean, think about Yoda. Like, we still have no idea why he is so powerful, but he's one of the most iconic Jedi, and everybody loves him. And we don't have a backstory on him. Whereas these characters come out of nowhere, and we just expect this, biography on everything.
Yeah, you're kind of right about that.
Yeah, I've never really thought of that, actually.
But I mean, it's just another thing that I'm conflicted on, because the last movie promised, or it didn't really promise, but it led to a story being told, and we didn't get it. Which, again, that's why I like this movie so much, is that it just tears your expectations. The theme is failure, and it just tears away all your expectations. But again, as a Star Wars fan, I still feel I'm a little unsatisfied on that end. But as a moviegoer, I'm incredibly on the edge of my seat when it comes to this kind of stuff. But anyways, moving on.
I just
what's that?
It's something I never even thought of. You mentioned that the theme was failure. I never really thought about it like that. But
think of it
it really is.
Wait,
honestly.
everything they're doing is failing.
Even like Yoda says that. Yoda said, and I never, like, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh crap, Yoda says that in the movie. I was
Greatest teacher, failure is.
Yeah,
kill it if you have to.
Right. So, now that you mention it, every single person in that movie fails at what they're trying to do.
Exactly, which is why I like this film so much. But then other things happen that, well, I mean, we'll get to those later. I don't want to make this the me show. But anyways, moving on to...
Amos, hold up. I wanted to say something about what you just said, too. You made an interesting point about, like, everyone expecting a biography off every character that makes into the movie. I mean, like, that's one thing I think that everyone hates the movie for. They went in expecting something. They didn't get what they expected, and that's why they don't like the movie.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree. And
I mean, you take that same principle and think about the original trilogy. Like, people are like, okay, who's this Emperor guy?
Yeah.
They don't know. They never find out why he's the leader of the Empire.
Until we get it in the prequels.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying they didn't get that, for 40 years later, or whatever, 30 years later.
However long it took.
Anyways.
Jeez. Okay. Anyway.
I will, in defense of that, I will say the reason why it works in the prequels is, I guess it's more of a character tone idea, because comparing Darth Sidious to Snoke is a little different, because Sidious, even though we don't know anything about him, he's still incredibly menacing, whereas Snoke, he's a floating head in the first movie, and then he gets cut in half in the second one.
You're right. He's a floating head. I love it.
Even when he is in the movie, he's just so powerful, like completely dominating Rey in every single aspect of their meeting. Like, she tries to grab the lightsaber, and he, like, just without even really doing anything, he just, like, forces it to hit her in the head and clanks back next to him. He's like, child, what are you doing?
But anyways, again, I would love to keep going. You can see we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to basically the finale, where they're on the salt planet, the red salt. Beautifully, I would say that, as a designer, I just love this planet. It is such a cool idea.
Yeah, I agree.
So here we are. The Resistance is at the end of the rope. They're flying into this rebel base that's there. They're calling out a beacon. They're looking for some kind of help. We're wanting a hero. We don't get one. So the 12 people left are starting the battle. How did you guys feel about this one? Because this is actually one of the only, interesting enough, this is one of the only few action scenes we get in the movie. So how do you guys feel about this one? Kyle, you can go first.
About the thing as a whole?
I guess all the way up to all right, basically everything leading up to Luke's reveal. How about that?
Let's see. I liked it. I thought that one of the scenes, it was awesome and it was cool. And the Resistance comes out and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna defend the base. The people are coming." And then they just get their butts handed to them, and then they show up with the battering ram, and they're like, "We got to deploy the troops. We got to take out the cannon before it blows up the door." And I'm like, "Okay, this is cool." And then Finn shows up, who at this point in the movie had been completely useless. Destroy was dumb, which sucks. 'Cause I liked him a lot in Episode 7. He shows up, and he's like, "I'm going to make this suicide run. I'm going to stop the cannon. I'm going to save the day. The Resistance is going to live on." And he gets screwed over by his new girlfriend.
Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah,
I was going to die a hero's death.
Yeah, and she smashes her speeder into his, and then he's like, "But I was going to save everybody." He's like, but I want you to live so I can give you this completely lifeless and loveless kiss. Like, and it lasts a second, and they're like, okay, well, and at this point, Rose didn't know that Luke Skywalker was going to show up. So for all she knew, she was dooming the Resistance just to give this guy a kiss.
I do find it funny because even like the actor of Finn, John Boy, completely like bewildered by the smooch. He just kind of like sat there like, wait, this is happening?
They don't have any romantic chemistry at all. Like none of them, the two of them, it just doesn't work. It's not
she likes him, but
what about you, Josh?
I mean, yeah, but it's a one-sided thing. It's like that crazy stalker who really wants you,
yeah,
but
that's
you're
what it
like,
seemed like. Because at the beginning when they first meet, she's like, "You're Finn," and he's like, "Yeah, it's whatever." And the whole movie, he's like looking for Rey the whole time, and he doesn't give a crap about her. And then, but yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just remembered something. I almost wanted to pass it up because it was so meaningless. But what about what's her name? The Silver Stormtrooper. What's her name?
No, that was absolutely ridiculous. Why did they bring her back just to die again? That was so stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
Throw in a trash compactor. She's dead. No, she's not. She's gonna die in a fiery hell.
I feel like they set themselves up for a bad scene there because they brought two characters who in the previous movie had lost. Phasma had lost to Finn and all those guys when she shut off the shield generator.
Yeah.
And then Finn lost to Kylo Ren. So we have two characters that have lost. One of them is going to have to lose. Yeah. Exactly. One of them has to lose, and whoever loses all credibility because they've lost two matches.
And I'll tell you... Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's just like Phasma who, she looks so cool. She's got this really cool armor, and she seems like she could be a really cool character. And she got
like the Boba Fett of this generation.
She got Boba Fett, and she's really cool. Everybody's like, man, that character is definitely gonna be awesome. Oh wait, nothing.
Yeah,
happened.
That scene was like completely like overhyped because she walks out, and you're like, oh, this is about to be really intense. He grabs the thing, and then he utters the words, "Bring it, Chrome Dome."
Right.
And I was like, no.
That's why.
And then he gets flung off like immediately, and then he just floats up and is like, hey, and then smokes her in the head. And I'm just like, okay.
Then it's revealed that she's actually the lady from Game of Thrones, which I actually didn't know until
turns out she's a white woman.
One of the funny things about that scene,
I just thought it was a really pointless scene. I did not like that scene.
I agree.
Right. Here's something funny to note that I figured out when I was watching it the second time. Is when before the explosion goes off that pushes everybody around, she's standing right next to Finn. And then the explosion goes off, and the next time we see her, she's like 20 feet away walking through flames with 20 stormtroopers.
No, yeah, I agree. That whole scene
Why
is
was she not right next to him?
Yeah,
Did she walk away just so she can make a dramatic entrance to walk
because the shot was cool, that's why.
They were surrounded by people, and when they woke up, there was two stormtroopers next to them, and that was it, and they were dead.
Exactly.
How did they not die? Whatever. I guess everybody got flown around. I don't know what really happened inside there.
I also thought that, what are those called? ATSTs?
The big huge
BB-8.
things.
Why was it running like a bird?
Because those were called ATMTs, Josh.
Okay,
get it right.
I guess I was like, they walk slow.
Has legs now.
I think it was just purely because of the fact they needed to get rid of that huge giant wall.
It's plot armor. It's more plot armor.
It's more plot armor.
Yeah.
That's
just a nitpicky
historically slow moving vehicle to move fast so they can save the people.
Yeah,
just
that
do
was
it.
that was
People
just a
won't care.
nitpicky thing that I saw. I mean, that's not really that important to me. I just
But yeah, I just wanted to. I didn't think this would. But I was just say let's. What about this, right? But anyways, going back to the basically climax battle. I think we haven't heard your opinion on it yet, Caleb. Before
I'm going to quickly go through it because we're actually running out of time. I liked it except for the Finn part. I wish he would have died, not because. I just wish
because you don't like him.
Not because I don't like him, but it would have been a lot more cooler than Rose saving him, kissing him, and me being like, okay, Rose, get out of the movie. I don't care about you. I'm sorry. I do not like your character at all. I'm very sorry, but I wish you would have let Finn die. I'm sorry.
Go stand in a mirror and snap a bunch.
Anyway, I enjoyed that scene. It was really cool. Josh.
I already talked about.
Oh, okay.
Josh. Yeah, and I was just gonna say that basically I really enjoyed that scene. Like again, I say this from like a designer standpoint. What the heck? But like from a designer standpoint, I really like that. Like the salt turning red and just like the complementary colors, which kind of leads into why the moment that hit me that I didn't really like or not really didn't really like, but just kind of like snapped me into went from a fan-going, or a movie-going fanboy to a critic in a heartbeat was Luke Skywalker, the big lightsaber duel that we have all been waiting for. So just to get to the point we want to talk about, Luke shows up and he's there just for comedy's sake.
He's there in spirit.
Yeah, he smooches his sister on the forehead and he goes out to meet Kylo. Now, first off, I thought that he was going to swoop in with his X-wing because we saw it laying in the lake in the beginning of the movie. And movie-going rules is if you have a gun or a shotgun on a mantelpiece, you better use that shotgun later on. I honestly thought that Luke was going to swoop in with his X-wing and start like trashing house, and then we're going to have a lightsaber battle. We didn't have that, but that's just my opinion on it. What did you guys think of the leading up to the lightsaber duel?
It was very emotional.
Caleb. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree.
No, the Caleb goes.
Oh, I agree with Kyle. It was emotional. I mean,
It was
just the fact that Luke is kissing the late Carrie Fisher on her head was enough. That was actually kind of sad for me whenever I was watching that, and
His wink towards C-3PO.
Kylo.
Yeah,
The only
awesome.
person who's ever nice to C-3PO was Luke Skywalker.
And then like I laugh so hard when Kylo fires every laser at him, and all he does is like do the dust stain off his shoulder. That I laugh
Do
so
you
hard.
think you got him?
Do you think you got him?
Keep firing!
But yeah, I really like that scene.
I thought what was interesting was when he appeared to all the resistance and stuff, he looked like old Luke.
Oh, yeah.
Like he did, and then when
He
he
even
walked
had
out
a
to
very
battle,
similar
he
outfit
looked,
from the last
he looked
movie.
young, like he did whenever he was training Kylo. I thought that was pretty neat.
Aesthetically, I thought that looked cool.
Yeah, and I was really confused at first when he had the blue lightsaber. I was like, wait, what? Because it was like
that's the part I was wanting to get to.
and then I was like, oh, whoa, this is awesome. You know, when you finally see what's going on there.
Oh yeah. So basically, we all felt the same feelings when we saw. Very emotional. It was building up to something great. It was pretty hilarious watching him get barraged with all these not lightsaber, but these blaster bolts. And the moment that really cut it off for me, if I may narrate the list from my perspective, was whenever he went out and he's like, "Face me, Kylo. I'm gonna show you what a real man can do." So like up until this point, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is gonna be the Luke Skywalker we get. He's gonna do it this time. So like they show up and they both activate the lightsabers. And like you said, Josh, he activates his blue lightsaber. And my first thought went back to, wait, that lightsaber was snapped in half earlier. That lightsaber should not exist now. I was expecting his green lightsaber from the last.
That's not how the Force works.
Well, no, like I was expecting his old lightsaber from the flashback and from the previous movies, and it made sense because red and green are complementary colors, and that would have been an amazing sword duel. But interestingly enough, they never clash sabers. Like someone's made the point that this is the first Star Wars where one, lightsabers never clash, and two, they didn't utter the words, "I have a bad feeling about this."
Actually, that apparently was kind of debunked. Apparently, and it's a really do it, but apparently that's what BB-8 says at the very beginning of the movie when he's when Poe is like, "You ready for this, buddy?" And then apparently BB-8 says, "I have a bad feeling about this," and then Leia's like, "I agree with you."
Happy beeps.
But anyways, so they're doing the battle. It's looking cool. People pointed this out, so I didn't really get a second viewing of this, but I did notice this was whenever they showed Luke walking in this the dirt, and like it turns red, but Kylo is just flinging everywhere, and his footprints are showing up everywhere. Whereas Luke, it looks like he's lightly stepping at first. What I thought it was, but then we get the humongous reveal that it was all an illusion. How do you guys feel about the whole illusion reveal?
If I may, because I'll lose my train of thought if I don't say it now. So that was brought. The first time I was like, my first thought was like, I don't know how Luke got here, but this is gonna be cool. And then like the whole thing happened, and he wasn't actually there. I thought when Kylo hit him, he was going to fall like Obi-Wan, and then it turned out that he was just projecting himself. So it was brought to my attention that there are several signs showing that he was doing this. And on my second viewing, I felt dumb for not noticing it because they very blatantly make sure that that he is not actually there. His hair is shorter. He's wearing different clothes. He has a blue lightsaber instead of a green one.
His beard's no longer gray.
Yeah, right. And every time he takes a step, every single time he takes a step, there's no dust, there's nothing. It doesn't. They very blatantly show that when Kylo's walking out there, that he is in fact making tracks. Then they show Luke walking, and he's not making any tracks. And also, whenever he touches, the first person he touches is Leia, and as soon as he does, she notices and she realizes that he's not actually there. And then I felt dumb because I was like, I should have known, because there's so many things like that they were trying to show us. But I liked it. Like, you know, okay. he had to get there, and I believe the reason why they showed us the X-Wing at the beginning was to show that he crashed here and he can't get out.
Okay.
So,
well, I was just expecting them to do the whole scene. What was it, episode 5, where he's like pulling his X-Wing out of the water? I was actually expecting.
I was too the first time I saw it, but on second viewing, I realized that they were showing us that to show.
See, I expected him to like show up in the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
Oh, yep.
I was hoping for a shot of Luke in the other gunner and saying, "Don't get cocky, kid."
What about you, Josh? How do you feel about Ghost Luke?
Oh, yeah, no, I thought it was great. I thought it was really neat how they just portrayed it. And I was kind of like with Caleb, like, you know, the first time I didn't notice, and then the second time when you watch it again, you're like, oh, okay. I mean, it's pretty obvious that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was just a really cool, intense scene for the movie that bought him just enough time to escape.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. Okay, so that's actually one thing that I will compliment heavily on this movie. The imagery is pretty great. Like like not just that planet, but not just the what's the kamikaze scene. There's a lot of great shots in this movie from like a film perspective. It's I don't think they had the same cinematographer they did last time in the last movie, because there's just so many times where I'm just sitting here going, oh, that's a great shot, or I'm like, oh, that was a really good transition. Holy cow, I'm losing it here. And that's just actually as a compliment towards the film. And so to bring this kind of to a head, so the movie kind of wraps up with Rey saving the Resistance, or the Rebels, what I should say, and with her utilizing the Force, and then we get the broom kid, you know, Spider-Man his web shooting his broom to him, and then the movie ends. So what the question I want to ask here is, like, what were the questions you had at the movie at the end? Like, what things were brought to your mind? Because everybody has that moment at the end. It's like, well, what happens next? So I think we'll start with how about you, Josh?
Well, you know, honestly, the first time I watched the movie, I didn't even notice the kid using the Force with the broom. I noticed the ring and all that, of course, but I didn't notice the broom. And Caleb brought that to my attention. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's pretty neat then. I just, yeah, I know. So I just think that it shows that, you know, there's hope out there in the galaxy, and that there's going to be more Jedi. It's going to be harder to wipe them out than, you know, like, because Kylo wants it all to die, all the old stuff to die, and I think that kind of showed that it's not going to die like he wants it to.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. It's just.
I mean, it's totally cool. It's cool, man. What about you, Caleb? Did you have any questions at the end?
I didn't have too many questions. I pretty much know, like, just from that last scene where they're planning on going with this movie. Interesting enough, after Luke goes bye-bye, before that scene, which is very symbolic, him looking at the sunset, he ended his journey the same way he started his journey.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if anybody else got this feeling whenever they were watching the kid, but he's holding his broom like a lightsaber. I don't know if anybody...
Oh, yeah, that was definitely...
Okay, I didn't know if that was just me or if everybody was... So I just think it's kind of cool that, just like Rey, she's not the only one who can use the Force, and she's not the only one who's probably going to end up being a Jedi, and I would love to see the Jedi Order come back. That would be cool.
Well, yeah, because she stole all the books. Like, whenever Yoda lightning bolt free, she stole all the books. Yeah. Page turners, they were not.
Page turners,
it's true, I did. Oh, yeah, dang it. I totally forgot to ask how you guys felt about Puppet Yoda. How about you, Kyle?
Very quickly, because we're running out of time.
Oh, yeah, I see that. I'm kind of scrambling also.
Kyle?
So me?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Puppet Yoda making a return?
Yoda was fine. I didn't feel like he fit too well. Like I felt like there was. I know everybody hates
you Yoda hater.
Yeah, no, I hate everything, and because I hate everything and I don't agree with you guys, I'm wrong, obviously. No, I just felt like there's a better, like, as much as everybody hates Anakin Skywalker, I feel like he would have been a better person to have shown up at that point. Because the whole thing Luke is dealing with is the redemption of Ben, and, you know, he's like, he's not, you know, in him, you know, he's like, oh, I had a bad moment in my life. You know, I made a mistake. What should I do? Am I redeemable? You know, and all this stuff. And Yoda, who, you know, never does anything wrong, shows up and is like, yeah, books kind of suck. And, you know, I feel like his father showing up and being like, look, I did some bad things in my life, but you showed me that I wasn't gone. And you made a mistake as well. But take it from me, somebody who's been there, you're by no means have you done anything that's irredeemable or that bad.
Okay. Wow, I never really thought of that way. It's actually, that's actually really interesting.
Of course, the only reason why it's not him and it is Yoda is because nobody liked Hayden Christensen's Anakin, and the movie would have gotten flack and would have become a meme because Anakin Skywalker and everybody loves Yoda, so they have to throw him in the movie.
Or, you know, the fact that Yoda is Luke's master, that might have had something to do with it as well.
And look, and Yoda's a puppet, so he doesn't age.
What?
And Yoda's a puppet, so he doesn't age.
Yeah, that as well. They could have made Hayden Christensen look like they could have did what they did to
Carrie Fisher.
Well, to Tarkin in Rogue One.
Well,
But
they did it really well with Robert Downey Jr. in the Marvel movie. What was it?
Oh yeah,
Civil War, where he like looks like he's like 20. It's not hard to visually de-age somebody, and it's not been as long. It's not been that long. It's definitely doable.
Yeah.
Okay,
I forgot they did that.
Yeah, I did too.
I just remembered the scene in my head. Okay, anyway.
They also CGI'd Superman's mustache off.
Yep, that was an interesting choice. Anyway, we probably our final thoughts on the movie would probably be a good way to end this.
Oh yeah, that's actually what I was fixing to ask. How about you, Kyle? We'll start with.
It's a terrible movie, a terrible way to end off. I know, I'm a hater. I'm wrong because you guys are right, but I think that there was just a lot of issues with the movie fundamentally as a movie that it requires you to suspend your disbelief way more than it should. The characters are different, but not in a believable way. It's just, in my opinion, a terrible Star Wars movie and one that ruins the legacy of the movies that came before it.
That's a bold statement.
How about you? Had no pod races.
That's a bold
pod
statement.
Races were awesome. So
I like.
So now races. You know why Kyle doesn't like this movie.
There's no.
What about you guys? Like, basically, like I'll say my piece at the end, but you guys.
I'll just give it a number. I gave it an 8.5. I enjoyed this movie a lot.
I say 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I really.
Are we doing numbers?
Oh no, I'm just simplifying mine. I
give it a 5.
I guess I'll meet you guys in the middle and say 7. Just like the movie I actually hate now.
5 younglings dead out of 10.
But no, I will say, like, I do feel like I'm right in the middle because, again, I really like this movie, but just like Kyle, I have a lot of gripes with it. There's a lot of things that I wish they would have done differently. But again, overall, I enjoyed it as a moviegoer. Overall, I hated it as a fan. But hey, I still went out, I guess I could say, thoughtful. This movie really made me think, and it definitely gave a new position on Star Wars, which I think it needed, but it could have been done differently. But that's just me.
Cool.
All right, well, I guess we're ready to close this bad boy. Hey, how about you guys give us your street creds?
Well, if I remember correctly, Josh and Kyle don't want to say where you can find them because they're just constantly hiding. So
exactly.
I'm like Luke.
Yeah. For once, this is the only time me and Josh have been in agreement. We're both like Luke and we're hiding.
But you can find me at MURPHGAM on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, where we do polls and funny things. So, and you can also get updates on the channel, and you can watch this on. You're probably either watching this on Sound. If you're watching this on SoundCloud, you can find our gaming channel at MURPHGAM, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find this on SoundCloud at Turn-Based Talk.
Awesome. You can find me pretty much anywhere if you type in except for MySpace. I deleted that because that was an embarrassment.
You're cutting out a little, Amos. Where did you say they could find you?
Just type in my name, Amos the Artman. You can find me basically anywhere on Tumblr and Twitter, just for art blogs. So don't expect any conversation except here. This is the only place you can find me, TBT. But anyway, I guess that just about does it. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for joining us, and I guess we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
See ya.
Later.
May the force be with you. Always.
Or not. I have a bad feeling about this.